Hi everyone, I'm here today with Anthony Coe. Hello, Anthony is a coach based in Hong Kong, but we do go a little way back and I'll let you explain that, Anthony. Today we're actually going to talk about something which we discussed offline. And Anthony and I decided that it would be a great conversation to take online for the benefit of his clients and certainly some of you. So, Anthony, welcome.
Thank you, Silvana. And it's great to chat to you.
Oh, it's lovely to chat to you again. Now, for the benefit of everybody listening, can you, firstly, give us some background in terms of how we know each other? That might help everyone.
Yeah, so, we've been working together. I've been your client, I'll say, for the past 10 years, let's say, on and off. And when we started, I believe I was in a space of a lot of self-doubt, a lot of negativity, and really working through a lot of my own issues in terms of who I wanted to be and living my authentic self. And obviously, through our sessions that you helped me a lot in terms of developing what I wanted to be and who I wanted to be. And that's really stepping into, I guess, my own space as a coach, helping people in the same way that you helped me.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I drew a lot of inspiration from what you said in terms of drawing from our own trauma, our own experiences to help people be better. And I guess it's very fortuitous that we're able to work together in this setting again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's been a dream to work with you as my coach and also to basically pass on a lot of the learnings that I've gotten from you from over the years.
Thank you. Somebody once said to me years ago that in order to recognise a teacher, don't thank them, just show them what you learnt. And I hold that very dear of all the people that have taught me and have had the time for me. And what I'm hearing you say is that you're basically putting into practice some of what I shared with you. And
absolutely.
I feel humbled in hearing that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I always keep drawing inspiration from our sessions, and even your meditation that you taught me so long ago, I still use daily and also pass it on to my clients. So
wonderful.
Yeah, I thank you for that.
I love hearing that. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Anthony. Now, for the benefit of everyone, how about we talk about what the conversation that we had offline that we've decided to bring online for everyone's benefit around those questions that you asked me?
Yeah, sure. So, as you know, it's definitely an interesting time that we're all kind of living in now. Obviously, a lot of people are working from home and have been very restricted in terms of social connection. There's a lot of isolation. There's also situations where people have found themselves on leave, and unfortunately, a lot of people have lost their jobs. And there's a lot of uncertainty and, I guess, uncertainty and fear at the moment. One thing that I have found from a lot of my clients is for the ones that are lucky enough to be working from home, from a prolonged period of time, it's been a very big shift. For example, like you're moving from a space where you're surrounded by people that you're working with, and now you're isolated, but still kind of expected to kind of give the same output and have the same connection without having the people in the room that you could normally just reach out and touch. For the ones who have lost their job or, have found themselves suddenly with a lot of free time, a lot of my clients are saying, wow, I've got all this time to suddenly devote to learning something, or, I've always wanted to play an instrument and now I've got the time to do this, but they end up spending their time doing unproductive activities such as binging Netflix or day drinking as an example. Yeah, so, there's just this consistent theme of people with a lot of time, or it's a big shift. And the common theme I keep hearing is about staying focused. So staying focused to a task or an outcome, and I guess really avoiding procrastination. Can you offer any insight into the situation that we're in and how it impacts our ability to focus, as well as some practical tips or takeaways? I'm sure you've got a lot of guidance on this. And for people who find themselves procrastinating in these uncertain times?
Sure. I think one of my first observations was that we're seeing a confluence of the personal and the professional. meaning that we're having to be the professional self working from home. And we're in a home environment that which differs in everyone's circumstances, that you are limited to certain degrees. So, for example, if you live on your own, well, you pretty much have a lot of freedom to what you can do at home. But if you share your house with your family or your partner or you have children, well, we have to work within the limitations and the opportunities that provides us, right? And the first thing that happens is generally that people say, well, this isn't how I'm used to working. I mean, admittedly, now more than ever, there's a lot of people working from home. But some people that work from home are generally working from home when there's nobody else at home, right? Or somebody might come and go. They're not necessarily working in a home that's full of people, full of their family or partners or children, right? So that's one challenge. The other challenge is the person you are at home and the mindset that you have when you're home. So there's a few dynamics that are really important to point out. I think probably one of the main things to say is that this is a really unprecedented time. There isn't a right way and there isn't a wrong way. There's just a way. And the best way is the way that's most supportive for each of us. And we have to find that way. And it's going to take some trial and error. But slowly, bit by bit, we will find a way that is right for us. Now, I don't know how long this is going to last. I mean, we could go in and out of these isolation periods all over the world. It is possible. So I like to remain flexible in terms of my opinion, because my opinion is probably like your opinion is we actually don't know what's going to happen. And it's constantly changing, right? So that's the first thing I want to say is that, this is a confluence of the personal and the professional. We haven't seen anything like this before. And most of us are isolated in our homes and working from home if we're lucky enough to still have a job. And then we have this time on our hands and we think, okay, I've got all this time. Now I can do everything I've ever wanted to do. But I find myself after a period of watching Netflix or binging out on chips or drinking or not exercising and doing all of those things is, hang on a minute, some time has passed. I haven't really achieved anything. All the things that I thought that I would do when I had time on my hands, when I was working and I didn't have the time. And I said, when I have the time, I'm going to do all these things. Well, now I've got the time. Why aren't I doing them? And then, we can lose this aspect of self-compassion. And we need to have self-compassion, especially now, because everyone is under the COVID-19 cloud, right? And we're all feeling stress because of it to different degrees. And the way that we're managing that stress has a lot to do with if we actually have been practicing stress management before COVID came, right? And I can talk about all the things that we can do to manage that. But when it comes to procrastination and not doing the things that we say we've always wanted to do, or even if you have to work from home and you actually have tasks you've got to accomplish because, you've got a Zoom meeting with your office and you have to discuss what you achieved that day, right? Is that, so whether it's personal or professional, the thing about procrastination is there's this misconception around, I don't want to do it. I can't be bothered doing it, right? But what we really need to understand about procrastination is to overcome it, we have to manage our emotions. Procrastination's got nothing to do with time, right? And that's the misconception. All this time has been wasted. I've been procrastinating. No, you're caught in an emotion. That's what's happening. And the tip around that, probably the first thing that I can say around that is to ask yourself this question when you're thinking about the task or the thing that you want to do, whether it's, pick up that violin and start lessons, or whether it's, gee, I've got to get this stuff done. It's part of my KPIs. I just have to get it done. Is to ask yourself, how am I feeling about it? Just check in. How am I feeling about it? And I guarantee you, how you're feeling about it is going to bring up either anxiety, depression, or boredom, or possibly anything else, right? And once you discover what that is, and it could be many things, whatever it is, once you've determined it and it feels right to you, in your gut it feels right, then you need to ask yourself the second question, and that is, how do I want to feel about it? Make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
So, for example, if it's a work task that you have to get done and you're feeling anxiety around it, you might ask yourself, what is the anxiety? Like, what is it? And the anxiety could be, I might get this done, but I actually could lose my job next week. I don't even know why I'm doing it. You could even have that thought, right? And I wouldn't be surprised if lots of people are having that thought, like, what's the point, right? And if you have boredom come up, the boredom could be around, I actually don't want to do this. I don't even believe in this, right? This isn't me. And that could come up if in this time that we're in, this COVID challenging time, is that you could have had some reflections while you're at home that your job isn't the job for you. And if your mind has gone in that direction, then sure, you're going to be bored with the work that you have to do because you're not values aligned to it. You've just discovered that the reason that you just don't get joy from your job is because you're not a match to it. Simple as that. Right? So that's basically it. So procrastination is more about you managing your emotions and understanding your emotions, so you can go from, this is how I'm feeling, to this is how I want to feel, and then take the appropriate action after that. Does that make sense?
That makes absolute sense, yeah. And just the idea that you can reframe the emotion and change your perspective on the situation.
For sure.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, and this kind of resonates with a conversation that I was having with one of my clients, in the sense that in a time of crisis, there's always an opportunity to improve or reframe to take advantage. And basically the example was that he is now working from home and still has the same job to do. And as you said, there's family members involved. So he's got 2 young kids. And he kind of felt like he was always distracted by having the kids around and couldn't concentrate. But then we talked about reframing the situation and saying, well, actually, it's quite an advantage for you to be working from home, because you can actually take breaks and play with your kids. And he actually built that into his routine. So he'd work for 45 minutes and then 15 minutes is hang out with the kids time. And that completely changed, the whole situation, his whole emotion to it. And it moved him into a place of, wow, I'm so happy to be working from home, because now I've got this extra time to spend, like extra 15 minutes every hour to spend with my family. And that
it's
completely
wonderful.
changed his perspective of it.
For sure.
So that's just an example of some things that have happened with my clients. Another tip that I gave to another client was about positive, I guess I'll call it positive procrastination for lack of a better word. But he had said, I do some work and then I spend about half an hour on Netflix and then I feel terrible about myself. But I kind of gave him the idea to reframe that. So, okay, maybe you do take that half an hour break, but spend that time doing something that you love. For example, playing guitar or exercising or nourishing yourself, so that after you've taken that break, that there's a positive emotional response to it, as opposed to a real negative one that, I've just spent the last half an hour vegging out watching Netflix and feeling very guilty and shameful about it.
Absolutely. That's a brilliant advice. Absolutely.
Was there any other kind of like tips or opportunities or takeaways? Because you've covered a lot of very interesting stuff. I mean, any other specific tips that you'd like to give on this
Yeah,
topic
well, I
or
think
these
based
themes?
on what you were just talking about there, I think, you touched on routine and how, your client could actually modify their routine. I
Mm,
think it's really important that understanding your routine, especially if you're working from home, is important to stay flexible with it. And that's really what you picked up on when you were talking to that client. And I would say there's a question that you need to ask yourself as well around routine is what's working for me
mm,
and making me feel good, which goes to the basis of what you said to Kim, and what isn't, and then make adjustments around that. And be careful how you measure your progress when you're working from home, because you don't need to rush manically like you might do when you're in the office. I mean, that's one of the silver linings from working from home. You don't need to do that. Sure, there are deadlines and you have to meet the deadlines, but uh, rushing to and from work, all of that rushing that we do in order to catch a train or a bus or to get on the metro or drive into work, that's been removed now, right? So our day doesn't start as frenetic or frantic if we actually have to leave home to go to work. So there's a lot of advantages to actually, because you've got that time back to review your routine. So I think, what you were saying earlier is an example of that, is how can I make my routine more flexible and work for me?
mm.
That's really important. I think mindset at home is critical, that you have to maintain a mindset that allows you to tap into a lot of inspiration, internal inspiration. And one of the ways that I think we need to protect and nurture that is not to consume too much news media. I mean, there's an endless cycle of news that's mostly doom and gloom at the moment. It doesn't matter what country you live in. And I often say to my clients, don't watch or listen to the news or read the news more than twice a day. Because if
Mm.
you're feeling anxiety or you're feeling depressed, the chances are that you're consuming too much of this doom and gloom content. Would you agree?
I would agree, and especially it's also, I guess, reinforcing, because once you read one article, then you see another article that says the same thing, and it's another
Totally.
article, and so that almost turns into a truth because that's your reality. All I'm reading is terrible news. Whereas if you kind of
Absolutely.
switch all that off and focus on the positives, it creates a completely different perspective and reality.
Yeah, that's right. And your mindset, working from home, whether it's, as I was saying earlier, a task that you have to accomplish or you're home and there's things that you want to accomplish for yourself because you've got the time, they become your goals.
Mm,
But the tip that I want to give around that is that when you think of something that you want to achieve, and I say this to my clients around the concept of soul's desire that I use a lot, that you'd be familiar with. So if you have a desire of something you want to achieve, and or a goal, whatever you want to call it, is your success in achieving it will be limited by the degree of how much resistance you have around it. And I'll give an example. So somebody says, I actually want to use the time while I'm home to learn the guitar, right? But every day that they get up, they think about, well, actually, I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't know how long I should practice for. In fact, I can't really read sheet music well. Um, I'm not sure what time I should practice because the neighbours might complain. Um, but they really, 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 really want to learn the guitar, right? So they put off practice one day and then another day, and then they might play around for another day. So that's a scenario if it's something personal. So if they have a goal, however, that they want to get a promotion at work, they can still hold that goal even in the current environment, right? Because if they're working, they're still meeting their KPIs, they're still handing in work, they're still working, collaborating with their colleagues and their whoever they're reporting to. So promotions can still happen, is what I'm saying. So that might be a goal of theirs. Well, if in their mind while they're working from home, they've got a thought like, well, I'm unlikely to get that promotion now because the whole working dynamic has changed.
mm,
Um, I won't be top of mind like I was before because my boss isn't in the next office. He's not across, or she's not across what I'm doing like they were before. So I probably won't get the promotion that I'm due. So what I'm saying is, in those two examples, if we have so much resistance in our head around the goal that we want to achieve, our desire, and that is greater than our desire for the goal, we won't achieve it because we are self-sabotaging ourselves. And that's the best tip I can give around that. So you have to check in with yourself and you have to say, the thing that I really want, that goal, that thing that my soul wants me to achieve, how much inner resistance do I have around it? And just list everything, just like I did then. This could be an issue, that could be an obstacle, blah, 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 blah. And then look at it and think, you could end up with a laundry list, right? And that might be the first time you become aware of how much resistance you have around the goal and why you actually haven't been achieving it, why you've been taking one step forward and one step back. And when you get clear on that, then you can do a process to eliminate limiting beliefs and you can move forward. But that is really, really critical. That's probably one of the best tips that I can give you that applies for whether you want to do something personal or you're just navigating a career goal in this new environment from working from home.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that completely resonates because it's kind of what we went through when you were working with me. It was all the resistance was actually just excuses I was giving myself. And when I kind of listed them out, it was, well, actually, 4 out of 5 of these are just plain excuses. And there's one that I really need to overcome. And yeah, I believe just seeing that on paper or actually internalizing it and then working through it, that was a great help in itself.
Right.
It's mostly in our mind a lot of the time.
Totally. And, and those beliefs are, in my book, I have that process, which is the Beetle process, beliefs, thoughts, actions, and language. But it's a similar concept in the way that, the belief, I talk about the belief being under the ocean because it's in the unconscious. Yeah. And, the thinking mind, the conscious mind is really just aware of, our present thinking. It's not aware of the motivation behind that thinking. And that's what the belief is. So often we don't see the belief because it's under the ocean, right? But is the belief, it's the limiting. I mean, we have lots of positive beliefs that are reinforcing, but it's the limiting belief that is the one that stops us in the forward momentum that we need, taking the action that we have to take in order to achieve the goal. And I think that once we isolate that and we can dissolve it or transform it or whatever process works for that individual, is then we're free. We're actually free to achieve what we want to achieve. And that is, I think, the freedom to be able to live our lives fully and in a fully expressed way is really what everyone seeks, I think.
I believe that too. Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
Wonderful. Anthony, did you have any other thoughts on that or anything else that you wanted to ask me? Or are you happy with what we covered? I mean, do you think this reflects our conversation that we had offline?
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, we could talk about this forever. I mean, every time we get on, I get on with you, we could talk about these things forever. But I mean, definitely if we're talking about procrastination, reframing, creating a new reality, I believe it's completely helpful. And it's great that you were able to share it with me and we can record it and that we can share it with other people. But no, I'd just like to thank you for your time and having the space to share.
Oh, thank you,
this
Anthony.
Conversation.
It's a joy to speak to you, and I hope that we do it again.
Likewise. Thank you, Silvana.
Okay, see you, Anthony. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.